Welcome, everyone. So Nate is back. He was here last year to talk about a project he could not name, and now he can name it and tell you whatever he can about it in a recorded fashion. And if there's anything else he can talk about, it would have to be after the recording. But fun fact, Nate and I have both worked on a Fantastic Four movie, just not the same one. And one was probably more successful. But that's our fun shared legacy history. Um, so Nate, you are introducing yourself anyway in your presentation, so I will pass it off to you.
Sweet. All right, let me share my screen real quick. Everybody can see that, okay? Awesome. All right, so hi, for those of you I haven't met, my name's Nathan. I was once a student of Shayna's for several years and I went on the PPP trip, and then there was some really cool internships that I got out in LA, and that led into sort of doing this project. And so um, always super grateful to Shayna. But yeah, that's sort of where I started at Syracuse. I graduated in 2023. And since then, I've been working in feature film, television, streaming, experiential media, all sorts of different projects, dipping my toe here and there. So, but yeah, today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about project coordination and what it looks like on feature films, especially feature films that utilize a ton of visual effects, because those tend to be very taxing on visualization and visual effects coordinators. Um, so yeah, just going through the presentation, we'll talk a little bit about the Fantastic Four, sort of what my role looked like, and then we'll go into Shotgrid, which is a very useful tool for project coordinators, project managers to check in on their projects, see how things are going, and also assign out tasks and shots. And then I'll go into a little bit of job acquisition, skill set search stuff at the end. I think that's always good to kind of tie into your presentations, especially for SUP, just because it really kind of gives everybody the same access to the opportunities that you have. So hopefully those will help you out. But we'll start. So graduated Newhouse 2023, experience in live action visual effects for film and television primarily, but I've also worked on a couple of advertising projects, both as a freelancer and working for an agency. I've also been on both the artist and the production side, so I have a little bit of a unique view on being an artist versus being in production. And I really kind of steered more towards production as of late, just because a couple of different reasons. One being that, artist expectations are really high, especially junior artist expectations. And when you're working or trying to work on feature films and feature television, it can be kind of a grind, and it's more of a numbers game. How many shots can you get out? How many difficult things can you do in a day? So I steered away from that and sort of wanted to take on the more managerial role and more of an oversight role. So I applied to the third floor, and they were looking for production coordinators. And this was about a year in advance of when I joined them. And eventually I just stayed in contact with them, and they reached out to me and they said, "Hey, we need help on a project." I was working a very normal 9 to 5 until I joined that project. I was just doing social media coordination, sort of trying to transfer my skill set of being an artist and an editor into becoming a coordinator. And I dropped all of that and said, you know what, even though I'm going to be on a month-to-month contract, I'm just going to ride this out and see how far it goes. And luckily enough, I got one of the biggest visual effects projects out there. It took a lot of interviewing and networking and talking to people, of course, but I'm very, very lucky to have had this opportunity. And yeah, super grateful to the third floor. They're a fantastic community. If you guys are sort of early on in your art career and you're looking to do visualization, I think that's a great step for new artists who may not have sort of the technical foundations of, you know, real live action finals visual effects. Starting visualization is a great opportunity. So I encourage all of you artists out there to look and see if the third floor is hiring, and look and see if there's any other visualization studios that are hiring. I'm also a Brick Foundation production management apprentice. So the Brick Foundation is a fantastic nonprofit that pairs in-class learning with apprenticeships, and there's a whole team of recruiters that are speaking with different talent agencies and different studios to sort of fill the roles that they need quickly. It's nice for them to go to this pool, and they have people who have been taking courses and can kind of jump into the swing of things really quickly. I also love Blender, Resolve. I'm huge on free tools, so love all of that. You can get Shotgrid for a free trial for a month. So I encourage all of you to go and try that and see how that works out for you. It can be a little daunting at first. I'm gonna show you through some of the main things, but yeah, definitely encourage all of you guys to go out and try Shotgrid. So the Fantastic Four, it was a visualization project. So we were doing a lot of storyboards, pre-viz, post-viz, and tech-viz. Tech-viz is just sort of setting up cameras, props, sets in a digital space with the same measurements that you would be using in person, just so that it makes shoot days a little bit easier. For visual effects projects, that's really helpful because it helps kind of streamline the process and just gets everybody on the same page, has everybody thinking about visual effects at the end of the line. I joined mid rush time, so I joined in November, and they did not believe that this project was going to get done by the July release date. But they had already put out trailers that said that it was going to be released at the end of July. So sometimes that just happens, and you got to just roll with it. But I definitely was kind of just dropped in. Had to pick things up on my own. Spent a lot of time outside of work working on ShotGrid, which I entirely recommend to you guys in whatever position you go into, just taking that first 2 weeks, taking an hour or two after work and just really studying your programs, studying the pipeline, understanding which projects you're working on and what the requirements are going to be of you as a coordinator. Um, and then, yeah, definitely just experienced a lot of really unique challenges from the fires that were happening out in LA to, mocap and data issues to communication issues caused by the fires and different issues that artists were running into with the pipeline. So it was really interesting to hop into a show of this magnitude and kind of deal with those problems that were holding us up and sort of how to tackle those in the quickest way possible. I made myself very available in person, even though everybody is working at home from the third floor. I went into the office. I made sure that I was talking to people, talking to the CEO, talking to the CFO, and just like really getting on the same page as everybody, making myself as available as possible. And I think post-COVID, a lot of companies are looking for that. So I encourage you guys to make yourselves as available as possible as well, especially if you're early on in your career. I was able to go to a lot of really cool screenings. I met some really, really big names in visual effects and in Marvel at Disney. Took some really cool subsidized skills courses. If you live in the state of California, you have the opportunity through your workplace to do some of these Nomon courses and some of these other visual effects courses, and it's completely subsidized by the government. So sometimes your company will actually pay you to go to those too, on top of that. So it really is a game changer for people who are early on in their career and maybe don't have the funds to take some of these, hundreds of dollar classes or thousands of dollar classes. But we'll talk about that at the end. And then, yeah, it was my first credit. So it was really, really fun that this was my first credit. Very excited about it, very lucky. And yeah, hopefully I get to work on something like this again because um, just what a project, what a team to work with. And yeah, I really enjoyed being able to talk to everybody at Disney and everybody at Marvel. Just a lot of great people in the visual effects industry, and with so many people criticizing it and trying to push CGI away and visual effects away. I thought it was so cool to be surrounded by such a talented group of visualization artists and visual effects artists and editors. They're the ones who do the real work. I'm just the one making sure that they have the facilities to be able to do all of the work. Um, and then, yeah, I just wanted to show you guys the trailer. It is on Disney Plus right now, so I encourage you guys to go watch it. But this is just the trailer and gives you a little sense of what the visual effects was like.
Famous around the world, please welcome the Fantastic Four. Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, Human Torch, and the thing.
Hey, what time is it? Say the thing.
That's not really something I say.
It's clobbering time.
That's just in the cartoon. Never late for Sunday dinner. Let's eat.
Hey, what time is it?
It's dinner time. Get inside.
I herald his beginning. I herald your end. I herald Galactus.
What is that? Get us out of here, Ben. Hold on! Are we safe?
I don't know. The clock is ticking. We are going to find a solution. We are going to make it right.
You don't want to just crush him?
I like that. The four of us will face the danger. We will protect you.
Family. It's about connecting to something bigger than yourself. We'll face it together. As a family.
What time is it, Ben?
No.
What time is it, Ben?
No, Johnny.
Say it!
I don't wanna!
Say it!
All right. So you guys can see, that's a very complex show to be working on. There's mocap in there, there's effects, there's invisible visual effects. So things like crane removal, wire removal, definitely was a lot of work that we did on this show. But also just putting in background plates, creating environments. I worked on the visualization side of things, so my team was really at the forefront of the style of the film and the style of the visual effects. The way that the city looks with the screens everywhere and, some of these planets that are created and some of these ships. A lot of that work was done by the fantastic visualization artists at the third floor. And you guys can see it was definitely very, very complex. There's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of different assets that you have to worry about in this. And so we'll get a little bit more into that later, but definitely a very complex show, especially for it to be my first show. It was stressful at first. But yeah, these are just some pictures I had. It was really cool. My favorite cereal is Cinnamon Toast Crunch, so to have the Fantastic Four like on Cinnamon Toast Crunch box was really cool. This was me at El Capitan where they did the public screening. I did get to go to a couple of private screenings, but unfortunately those were no photos, no videos, so had to be careful about that. But at the public screening, it was really, really fun. There was an organist who was playing Michael Giacchino's music up on stage, and if you guys know who Michael Giacchino is, you know that his soundtracks are fantastic and they're used in so many different movies and TV shows. So he's really awesome. And fortunately, I was able to see him in San Diego too. He did a really cool concert where he was playing some of his music, but it was a little bit more experimental and was kind of playing with the tempo of things and the style of his music. It was just a really, really cool experience. And then yeah, being able to see the Fantastic Four sign and being able to see all of the costumes and some of the props in person. I was not one of the coordinators that was there in person because I joined mid visualization, mid visual effects. So it was cool to see some of those props and sets and things. And then also this was a mural that was painted on a coffee shop in LA, in West LA. I forget what the name of the coffee shop is, but I thought it was cool. Yeah, so my experience on it, it's definitely very, very fast paced. There's a lot of moving pieces. If you don't kind of prioritize your day and set out to do certain things during the day, you'll definitely fall behind. There's always something to do. There's always somebody that you need to help, whether it's artist support or talking to creative directors or communicating with the client or even communicating with other vendors, there really is always something to do. You're never sitting on your hands, kind of thinking, oh, who needs me right now? And part of that is anticipating needs. So whether producers are going to have needs or editors or artists are going to have needs, you want to get ahead of those so that they don't even have to ask you, and those things are already kind of sorted out for them before they show up to work. Whether that's, the servers are down and you have to bring everything back, or we're experiencing issues with Maya, or we're having issues with the pipeline, whatever it is, just being able to anticipate those and attack those as soon as possible, and also just being able to prioritize everything that you're doing throughout the day. So, knowing the hierarchy of people who are working in production, whether, artist requests, unfortunately, are kind of at the lowest of the totem pole when it comes to clients and production support and production management, producers, creative directors. They're all, far more important than the artists. So just learning how to prioritize those requests as they come in, and yeah, just kind of go about your day by getting the most important things done and taking problems, breaking them down into smaller problems and attacking those so that you can eventually, get to the root of the problem. You have to be super organized, got to have good prioritization. And then also just being in person is really helpful these days. Also, unfortunately, as you're starting out in the industry, it's really important that you get those overtime hours in. I think that a lot of people, kind of and ha about doing overtime, but I think really when you're early on in your career, it's important to do some overtime. Just show that you're willing to go the extra mile, put in the extra hours to, make a production go as smoothly as possible. And I think that being available not only, you know, say it's a Friday and we need to do overtime on Saturday and Sunday, as the clock's ticking towards the end of Friday, figuring out whether or not you're going to need it, start sourcing artists, start sourcing, oh, what are the meetings going to be for tomorrow? What do we need to get done tomorrow with our overtime? Because usually if you're working in overtime, it means that you didn't do something that the client or the vendor, another vendor was asking of you to do during your regularly scheduled day. Um, and then also, yeah, so first credit, this was just a little graphic that was made by the team at the third floor. And so you can see that I worked with a lot of other visualization coordinators on this. Also, Winnie worked on this with me. I'm not sure if any of you guys know Winnie. She's a fantastic production coordinator. She's good. She taught me a lot. Definitely got me used to the swing of things. It was really nice being able to, bounce back and forth with her on this project and to not just have one coordinator on this because it was such a massive, stressful show. Um, so first things first, I just wanted to tell you guys, there are security concerns with projects that you're working on, especially large scale visual effects projects for major studios that have, very valuable IP attached to it. You have to make sure that you're reading and signing your NDAs, making sure that you know exactly what's being asked of you in every single one of them. There are going to be different NDAs that you're going to get. There's going to be different things that you have to sign. You're going to have to go to different security trainings, both for clients and vendors sometimes. So it's really important that you take all of that really seriously, because one mistake on the security front is, you're done. You can't go back to that same company. It's really difficult for them to right those wrongs. And in some cases, you may be leaking content that's worth millions, if not billions of dollars. Some of these films get up there. So definitely always just keeping that in mind. There's a lot of different layers of security when it comes to working on visual effects shows. So there's digital and physical security. I can't really go into the details of how the third floor sets that up, but just know that there are multiple layers and multiple different steps that you have to go through to get cleared to be able to work on projects like this. And it's important that you take all of that very, very seriously. There are going to be different checkpoints, and you're going to have, different summits, production summits, where you'll talk about some of these security issues. So it's really important that you pay attention to that, and you always have that in the back of your mind. That means, not talking to your friends and family really about what you're working on, definitely not posting anything to social media, even if you're, working on a shot and something funny happens and you're like, oh, I'm gonna, take a picture of this and post it on social media. Cannot do that. Like, absolutely no go. Have to be very, very careful of that, especially in this digital age where we're kind of, always keen to like posting what we're doing, posting what we're working on. You really have to be mindful. So, and this was just a funny thing that I made. But oh, also, it's going to be very important when you're working, whether you're working client or vendor side, you're going to have an email that is specific for the company that you're working on. And it's important that you only email people that are from known senders. You're going to get a lot of spam and people that are trying to, fish and things like that. And it's really important that, you only email people that are within your organization or within recognized organizations. That can also be a security concern. So now I'll go into a little bit more about what being a production coordinator looks like, especially on a large scale visual effects film. There are a couple, I mean, as you guys can see on here, it's definitely like a very, very involved position. You kind of have your hand in um, a lot of different projects and you're a part of a lot of different teams, and you're also organizing all of those different teams at the same time. So you're really doing sort of administrative, communication, technical, and project management support throughout the entire day, throughout the entire week. Every single day, you're going to come into some issue administratively, communicatively, technically, or with your project management. It just happens. Something always happens every single day. So on the administrative side, it's, time cards, production summits, overtime requests, artist databases. That means, having artist databases and information on file so that you can reach out to people that you need to come onto projects. Also reaching out to people when there's natural disasters and you need to figure out where they are, if they're safe, if they're available to get to work. If not, how can we best support them in, the remainder of their life and what they're doing. Um, and then casting, so casting in this sense, meaning bringing on new artists, bringing on new hirees onto projects. And then there's also artist schedules, technical support, internal note taking, and familiarity with the pipeline. Understanding the tools that you're using, and we'll go into a little bit what the pipeline looked like for our visualization studio on Fantastic Four. But just really familiarizing yourself with the process can help you have those conversations and go into those conversations, take really good notes, because you know what you're talking about. And then there's the communication front of things, right? So there's the internal and there's the external. You have the internal, which is producers, managers, creative leads, pipeline, artists and editors, corporate, basically anybody internal in-house. And then you also have external. So you may be working as a sole vendor for a client. You also likely will be working with other vendors. And so there's going to be times when you're sending work to them, they're sending work back to you, saying this works, this does not work. Fortunately, we were able to work with a lot of really, really cool vendors that did amazing finals visual effects on this project. So was very, very happy with all of that. But you're also managing email, G Suite chats. You may have, upwards of 20 chats at a time that you're having to go back in, check in, make sure that everything's going okay, checking on artists, checking in on other production support, and just touching base with a whole bunch of different teams. You're focusing on solving issues, working on updates, changes, deliveries, and forecasting. And then on the management side of things, that's really the brunt of the work. So that's scheduling, task prioritization, shot creation and Shotgrid, review sessions, note taking, scheduling, reaching out, talking to clients, task management, camera, dealing with camera and mocap data and other different types of files that you may be getting from the client, ingesting all of that, doing deliverables, artist support, general knowledge of who, what, and where, how, and why things are happening on your production. But yeah, definitely more on the management side of things for this project was doing a lot of shot creation, a lot of note taking, a lot of going to daily sessions, fixing things, going back, giving notes to artists. And then, yeah, prioritizing things depending on what the client wants, what we're able to get done with current team levels, always keeping in mind, how big your team is and how much time you have. So one of the best ways to go about doing all of your managerial tasks is through Shotgun. It's been called Shotgrid. I think it's been called other things in the past too. If you look it up on Autodesk, you'll see it. It's called Production Tracking. It's a great tool for managing your productions from delivery, scheduling, asset management, task assignment, note taking, permission granting. You can really just do anything that you need to do with it internally. So really only used for internal teams. There are ways that you can work with clients and vendors externally on the same Shotgrid page, but really it's best for security reasons to have your own Shotgrid page and to have everything sort of centralized in-house. This is what the layout of Shotgrid looks like. So this is just one of the many pages that you have where it's like a scheduling page. You can see all of your tasks that you have. You can see the different pipeline step that they are. You can also see the link that they are. So if you want to link them back to your internal database, you can, have all of those links there, and people can just go and find the plates that they need to use and the footage that they need to use. Everything is centralized and linked to your file organization and your deliverables. So some of the most useful tools that we use on a visual effects show are task assignment, reporting and budgeting, data linking, and customizable deliverables and reviews. As you're going throughout this project, you have editors and visual effects supervisors from clients that are looking at the work that you've done every single day, and they're telling you either um, you know, this was bad, this is good, we can hold off on this, we can wait on this, or we're going to take this shot out of the film entirely. Sometimes that happens, and they just take it out, and they say, you know what, we're going to replace it with something else. We're going to do something else with this time. So just having all of those different status updates, and as you guys can see, or maybe you guys can see, maybe it's a little bit too small, but right next to the sequence tab on the shot page of a visual effects show, you'll have your statuses, and you can have multiple statuses. So depending on the different pipeline steps you have in your show, if you have assets, if you have visual effects, if you have sound, if you have light, if you have, basic fixes that you're doing, you can set up individual pipeline steps, have them color coded, and then track those through scheduling, as you can see here. Tracking those, seeing how long you have to do those, what needs to be done first before you can move on to the next step. You can also manage which artists are working on which things, what dates they're supposed to be done by, what date they received plates, or what date they received assets. So hopefully you guys can see like it really is a one-stop shop for production management. If you're working on a show, this is a perfect opportunity for you guys to be able to use this, and it works similarly to other production management, or not production management, but other workplace management platforms. It's just a little bit more tuned towards visual effects, film, television, animation. You can also use it for games. You can use it for asset creation. So really, whatever project you're doing, you can definitely find a way to use Shotgrid for it. Um, yeah, and you can add tasks, add descriptions, you can add notes in, change the priorities of things, you can change the task statuses of things, change and add people onto projects. You can even set the location to where the task is taking place. So we were working with London and LA and Atlanta. It was good for us to have a place in Shotgrid that we were able to say, okay, this person's working on this shot in LA. That means they're going to be starting their day 3 hours earlier. Maybe we give them some shots that we need to complete by the morning, and then they can have them done by the time that the LA crew gets into the office. Or let's give these things to London so that they can have them done when we wake up in the morning. So that's also really important too. And you can add in thumbnails and stuff too. And there's like a way to do themes in this too. I don't know. I'm no Shotgrid expert. I just know my way around a little bit. So um, yeah, and then this is sort of what the workflow looks like for us, at least at the third floor, without going too kind of into detail about what we were doing. You definitely have different steps, and Shotgrid is just one step. It just happens to be sort of the largest step and the most all-encompassing step of your post-production workflow for production management. So you're really starting with FileMaker, which is your camera database. Some people will use different camera databases, but this is really where all of your data comes in from inset or on set. You'll get your lens data, you'll get how high the camera was sitting, you'll get, what take they're using, you'll get any important information that you may need to know when you're setting up your shot in Maya, using all of your exact camera data so that when you're doing your animation, it is exactly tailored to the plate or the shot that you're using. Of course, there are issues with that, and there are issues that you run into on productions where you don't have the plates that you need, or the camera data is input incorrectly by a bad production assistant, and then you're working with bad data, and then you have to, go back and kind of solve those things. So it's definitely not the greatest tool, but it's where you start. It's where you get all of your camera data, and then you're able to put all of that into Shotgrid so that when artists are working on visual effects shots, they're able to go back and look and say, okay, this lens was used on this shot, this was used here, this was used here. I should have the camera about this tall in my Maya scene. The character should be about this far away from the screen. All very, very important information that all lives within Shotgrid, all available to every single part of production. It's definitely, yeah, just a centralized place for everybody to get their information. Sometimes editors will need information on individual shots. Sometimes visual artists will need data on sequences or data on edits. And it's important that you have all of that information in Shotgrid. Then from Shotgrid, really, really cool that you are able to export into Excel. And you're able to take a lot of your production specific formulas that are working for you in Shotgrid, and you're able to copy and paste them into your Excel. Sometimes it takes a little bit of fixing to make it work. Um, but Excel is definitely a very important step in the workflow, and just kind of having an easy readable, one sheet basically that you can send to clients and other vendors that not only shows them the status of the shots that you're working on, but also can accompany deliverables and say, hey, we finished all of these shots. Included in this package is, this shot, these shots, this camera data, these scene files, these storyboards. And it really helps you kind of break all of that down and make it more digestible for people who don't want to look at Shotgrid all day. Um, it's definitely helpful to export some of those priority pages and task pages, shot pages. All of that can be really helpful to other clients and vendors to kind of get a grip about where you are in the show, where you need support, what you need to push, what you don't need to push. And with Excel, you're going to find that production management will often have you making new show specific formulas. So having a good understanding of Excel can never hurt you. I mean, it's used in finance, it's used in a whole bunch of different aspects of production. So also knowing Excel is really important when you're a production coordinator, just to be able to give people digestible information. And then, after Shotgrid, after Excel, there's actually a page in Shotgrid that allows you to prepare your deliverable packages. So you're able to go in, you're able to say, okay, we did these shots today. You can link them in Shotgrid, and you can say, okay, the status of these are complete until they're pending or they're pending review or they're pending notes. And then that way everything is centralized. Artists are on the same page. They don't double dip and do shots or notes on shots that have already been addressed. So the deliverables page is definitely really important in Shotgrid as well. And it allows you to kind of work with whatever render programs you're using to spit out really digestible packages for visual effects editors on the client side. And they're able to kind of just pull those shots straight into their timeline. It's really, really easy for them. And then you're including your Excel sheet that tells you these are the shots we sent, these are the time codes that it should be, yada, yada, yada. And so it's just really easy. You send along EDLs and things like that, makes totally streamlines the visual effects edit, makes things a lot easier on clients and vendors. And yeah, you'll have different programs that you'll use to do secure send. Most of the time it'll be Aspera. I think that's kind of the industry standard. I'm not sure, maybe Shayna or Brad or Alex, you guys can correct me on this, but yeah, you'll use some secure platform to do that. It's important that you adhere to all standards there and that you're sending delivery packages that are clear and concise. There are going to be other coordinators on the opposite side of you that are going to be reading these packages and need to be able to see the notes, what's in it, and how much you did, and the EDLs really, really easily. So you have to make your deliverable emails as digestible as possible. And you have to make sure that you're delivering to the right place. Sometimes there's multiple folders, and sometimes there's different people that you can send it to on accident. You have to be on top of that. You can't be sending out, 30 visual effects shots to someone random, and then that gets leaked, and then, the internet goes crazy with Marvel conspiracies. So you guys are well aware with that. And then, yeah, I just wanted to talk to you guys, end up a little bit talking about job search and skill acquisition. So one of the things I pride myself on is continuing my skill set, trying to get better at things, always, building, getting better, whether that be as a coordinator or as an artist. And that really takes you having the dedication to do that outside of work hours, in my opinion. Um, so best sources, there's Maya certified users courses. I haven't really heard of a lot of people that use those, but I know that they're readily available to you, and they're easy to follow, and they have all of the information you need because it's straight from the source. I find that sometimes when I'm doing Blender, um, you know, Blender doesn't have the best tutorials, so then I'm reaching out to, sketchy sources to try to find, ways of cutting around and doing things differently. Um, so definitely be on the lookout for those. I highly suggest everybody learns Blender. It is a fantastic program. It's really easy to use, really easy to learn. You just got to spend, a day kind of cracking down and really working on it, and you can create some really awesome 3D scenes. You can also learn how to set up cameras, set up lights. You can learn how to do environments. You can learn animation, rigging, texturing, displacement maps, all really, really important stuff if you want to be an artist, but also important as a manager and a coordinator because when artists come to you with technical support issues saying, hey, my auto rig isn't working right now, can you please check on it? Do you know how to fix it? At least you know what they're talking about instead of being like, I don't know. What is a rig? It's auto? I didn't know how to do that. So just being aware of these tools, being aware of what your production needs, definitely very important. Highly recommend all of you guys check out Gnomon, which is a fantastic visual effects school that you can take classes through. A lot of great industry professionals, including industry professionals at the third floor, teach courses on there. Fantastic opportunity for you guys to, get your artwork out there, make some really cool artwork, and get it judged by people who are in the industry currently working in high positions. Definitely use YouTube, definitely explore around the internet, find things that work for you, find systems that work for you, figure out your own production workflow, and also just kind of familiarize yourself with the productions pipeline early on as possible. If you can get yourself sort of into the swing of things, within the first 2 weeks of being on a project, that is immensely helpful not only to artists but also to production management and other coordinators. Just knowing how to go about the management side of things, the communication and the administrative side of this job definitely can be, gained throughout the entire course of you being at whatever company you're at. But the management and project management is really important that you have nailed down when you go into a show of this caliber. Um, and then, yeah, definitely just look out for agencies and job boards. There's vfxjobs.com. There's also the animation visual effects game industry job postings. You're doing a good job by being at, this alumni group and joining us here. Being a part of post-production communities, I highly suggest all of you guys check out Brick Foundation if you're students. If you're not students, there's certain age requirements, so just go check what that is. But highly suggest you guys do that. You basically have a dedicated team that's looking for projects for you, looking for ways to get you involved in the community, getting you your foot in the industry, especially if you've had sort of a interesting or unique approach or pathway into the industry. It's very important that you have somebody vouching for you. So being able to take courses through them, also being able to join some of their alumni panels and professional panels definitely has really helped me out and has gotten me a lot of conversations as of recently that I didn't think I was going to be able to ever have. So highly suggest all of you guys check that out. Dedicated team that's looking for jobs for you. And then network. I know as visual effects and editors and, production management, we like to be inside and, under our hood and windows drawn and just only the lights needed for correct color grading. Like we don't like to step outside of our comfort zone. But it's really important that you get out there, put yourself out there, whether that be through Zoom and Google Meet calls, or just going to networking events. I know that Zachary Meyerson, he puts on a lot of really great networking programs too up in LA. So just be on the lookout for those. There's plenty happening in whatever state you're in. Visual effects people love to get together and, have drinks, complain about their own pipeline and, complain about issues that they're going through and just talk about sort of the what it is to be a visual effects artist, what it is to be an editor. And so sometimes just getting those stories too is very, very helpful. Um, and then, yeah, I think that's it for me. Oh, I wanted to a few more things. So definitely recommend all of you guys get very, very familiar with Shotgrid and Excel. Can help you at any step in your production journey. Learn communication standards based on hierarchy. So there's, different people that you should talk to. There's people you should only talk to when there's an emergency. There's people, you should maybe talk to only weekly versus daily and be nice, not nice. There's different ways of talking to everybody, and uh, there's different ways that people prefer to be talked to. So definitely figuring those out early is really important. Um, and then just practicing your prioritization and short time problem solving. One thing that's really helped me is I play blitz chess online. I don't know if anybody is interested in chess or if anybody plays chess, but that definitely has helped me kind of like think differently and think on the fly. And with a timer, it helps me, think in crunch time. And I think that subconsciously had an effect on my ability to sort of manage some of these problems that were happening on set and throughout the production process. And then, yeah, just being detail oriented, enthusiastic, passionate about making things better than they are, and then being available Monday through Friday, but also being available past that, being available past 9 to 5, being available on the weekends. It really helps out a production. And then just my final advice is to talk to anyone and everyone you know. There's nobody that's above or below you, regardless of if they're a CEO or if they're unemployed. Like there's nobody that is more or less than anybody else. I think that's just an important life skill is to know that we're all people. Nobody is better than anybody else. Everybody likes to talk about themselves in the industry. So just definitely enter those conversations with confidence. Don't feel afraid to talk to people that you think may be out of your depth because everybody's willing to talk about themselves. Um, and then, yeah, just keep on working on your own skill set and fill your own free time with passions. I do a lot of underwater photography. I surf. I coach my old high school's water polo team in my free time. So there's a lot of other ways that you can stay involved in the community, whether that be through nonprofits or through charity or through, your own hobbies on the side. But it's definitely important to keep those things up outside of productions because, productions are very heavy and there's a lot of work. And so being able to do things outside of work is also very important. So I encourage you all to continue doing things that you love, regardless of the projects that you're working on. Always find the time to be with and do the things you love. Um, and yeah, this is just my contact page. So if you guys want to reach out to me, feel free. I'm a LinkedIn warrior. So if you guys want to, you know, message me, feel free. If you guys ever want to talk, if you guys want to schedule a meeting, I'm very available these days. I'm only working on a couple of smaller projects right now. So definitely have a lot of free time and would love to talk to you guys about anything, whether it's job placement or how did I get this position or maybe good people to talk to or good places to start. I would love to talk to you guys about that further. And then you guys can check out my Instagram. I do a little bit of 3D work, and that's all passion projects, strictly passion work. I do a little bit of freelance editing outside of that, but that's all my 3D portfolio. So if you guys want to check that out too, I'd appreciate that. But yeah, I wanted to open it up to you guys if you guys had any questions. We'll save show specific questions until a little bit later. But if you guys have any questions about being a production coordinator, what it was like working on a big project, just navigating conversations, I'd love to answer those questions. So feel free, fire them at me. Yeah, that's all I have for you.
Thanks, Nate. I have a question. So you have background in 3D, I know, and how, because you have that kind of like a knowledge of that vocabulary and that lingo, how does that like serve you day to day? How much like into the weeds do you get with that stuff? Or is it just kind of helpful in kind of knowing the general process and pipeline and how it works? You mentioned that they're working pretty much in Maya for the most part.
Uh-huh.
But that knowledge in Blender certainly helps, right?
Yeah, so I think it's both. I think that having the general overview of how these programs work is really important, but I think also just kind of like taking a day or two to go into some of these programs and mess around with it is really important too. I have found that my highlight when I was at the third floor was knowing a file type that not my supervisors, other production managers, or artists had ever heard of. And so just knowing some of those things, knowing the specifics of some of those things, even if you don't even know what those files do or how they work, is really important as a coordinator, just because it gives you a little bit more comfortability when people come to you with issues and just being like, oh, you know what, I've heard of that before. I think I can solve this, or I think I know something about this. Let me see what I can find. I did find that a lot of times working on this project, I was Googling things and being like, okay, my issue that my you know error code how do I fix this? Um, but yeah, definitely a general knowledge of like After Effects or Premiere or Resolve or Fusion or um, Blender can go a long way, and those are all free programs at least while you're a student. I think you still have Adobe licenses, but um, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah, definitely just helps to help you feel more comfortable around artists.
Oh, totally. And then just kind of a follow up on that, when you have a specific like tech, like one of your visualization artists has a specific technical issue that you can't resolve immediately, do you have like a visualization TD, or how does that
Yes.
work? Yeah.
Yeah, so we use Jira and it use some of those other platforms to, submit tickets, and then we have a whole pipeline team, a whole, TD
Gotcha.
team that
Yeah.
can work on some of that stuff.
Cool.
That's of course if it's like beyond the scope of what a production coordinator can do.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, hey, my machine is down. Like, can you reboot my machine? And sometimes that takes going to other people to figure out. But yeah, we do have a whole pipeline dedicated to helping out artists for issues that are beyond my control.
Cool.
And there are certainly plenty of those. So
So
yeah,
Hey, super quick question. You kind of maybe went over it a little in your presentation. By the way, thank you so much for doing this. This was awesome.
of course, yeah.
But you might have already answered it, but how did you go about problems on a project this big? Was there any kind of different things you did this time around handling problems like that?
Yeah, so I definitely, that's a great question, by the way, because you're faced with plenty of problems as production staff, and nobody really tells you how to solve them, but they all expect you to know how to solve them. So it's definitely kind of BSing to people at times and saying, hey, you know what, I got this, and then making it your top priority and going straight to Google and trying to figure something out. But for me, what I found is best is really just breaking it down into simple steps. So okay, an artist is unable to use Maya. They're getting this error code. What are the steps I need to take? Okay, I need them to screenshot the error code. I need them to write a short description about what the issue is. I need to know if I need to go to pipeline with this or if this is something that, more of a maintenance staff can take care of. Do I need to ask anybody questions about this? Is this going to affect the whole team? And then how, who are the people that I need to talk to about this? Who are the people that can fix this? So I think really just like taking these complex problems, breaking it down into simple, actionable steps allows you when people are coming back to you and saying, hey, have you worked on this? Are you working on this? You can say, oh, I'm in the middle of this right now. And you can point to them exactly where you are in the steps of solving the problem. You can say, hey, I've just reached out to so and so. This still needs to happen. I still need to do this, but this is done, this is done, this is done. And I think that that's a great way of attacking problems and making sure that you're just communicating with everybody and saying, hey, I know you needed help on this. I'm working on it. There's an issue in the pipeline, and so we're going to solve it, but it's going to take this long, or it could be this long, or this person's going to be held up. Maybe we should send them to lunch while we fix their computer. It's creating actionable steps from problems, and always keeping cool under pressure. I find that like as a production coordinator, as a production manager, you have a lot of different teams coming to you. So you have artists, producers, creative directors, and you kind of have to keep cool, calm and cool under all the pressure. So really just knowing your stuff, being comfortable saying, hey, this is going to take me some time, but it's my top priority. Really being able to communicate with all of these different people is paramount. So I would just say, prioritization of the issues and then also communicating with everybody and keeping everybody on the same page. But yeah, great question.
Well, if no other on the record questions, I'm going to stop the recording. So thank you again, Nate. And then please stick around if you have any off the record questions.
Thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys taking the time during your night to come and listen to me speak. I know we've had a lot of production coordinator and production adjacent positions come in. So if you guys have any questions about the art side of things or, recruiting for artists or anything, like I can help you out a little bit with that. But just talk to me about that in our free time. We can schedule a meeting for another day.